Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Whitaker, and as always, it's great to have you here with us today. And whether you're watching on YouTube or listening as you walk the dog or driving the car or running on the treadmill, whatever you're doing, I just want to start off by saying thank you for being a listener. Now, our podcast is growing and we need your help to continue growing because we want to get to help as many people as we possibly can. So if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, then give us a 5-star review and a follow, and that would be very kind of you and very much appreciated. We are soon to be launching our online marketing course where we cover everything to do with the world of salon marketing. So if marketing and growing your business is important to you, then head on over to growmysalonbusiness.com/course/marketing and put your name on the wait list so that you get priority notification. And I'll also put that link in the show notes of today's episode. So with that said, on with today's episode. Clients are the lifeblood of business, and I'm yet to meet a salon owner who doesn't want to have more clients. So let's start by asking, where do new clients come from? Now, the answer is that it varies depending on many things, including your location and your business model. But I'm going to suggest that there are 5 main drivers that bring new clients into your salon. The first is that they're just a random walk-in and you just happened to be there when they needed a haircut or color or whatever the service was that they needed at that point in time. The second is that they're the result of a offline marketing promotion in whatever shape or form that took. The third is that they came on personal recommendation, meaning a direct referral from someone who'd already been. The fourth is that they found you on social media. And the fifth way is that they were driven to you through the internet. And most likely that would mean through Google. And it's Google and web traffic that we're going to be talking about in this episode. So my guest today is Phil Evans. He is the founder of Salon Guru, and Phil and his team specialize in websites and digital marketing for the salon industry and have now built over 300 websites all over the English-speaking world. So he is the perfect guest to be talking with today, especially when it comes to Google and the salon industry. So in today's podcast, we're going to discuss why salon owners need to understand how Google works. We're also going to talk about what the difference is between Google Search, Google Profile, Google Maps, and how to find out what your Google rank is, and so much more. And so without further ado, welcome to the show, Phil Evans.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while since, you've been on the podcast. I actually had a look. It's 5 years ago. I couldn't believe it was that long. But for anyone who's interested in finding out what we spoke about last time, because, the world's changed a lot in the last 5 years, but we did a very informative podcast. I'll make sure I put the link to it in the show notes. But today we're going to talk about something different to what we spoke about last time. So there'll be, some obvious connections, but, technology and, as I say, the world that we live in has changed a lot. So, Phil, let me start by saying that most of us use Google in our everyday lives. And perhaps I think most people just take it for granted. But like everything, though, Google today, as I just said, it's very different to what it was 5 years ago. And digital marketing has changed a lot. And I think that most salon owners are not particularly clued up about how to use Google to specifically grow their business and just how important it's become. And I know that really is a niche that you and the team at Salon Guru have been focusing on and indeed specialize in. So let me just ask you a really broad question to kick things off. And that is, why is it important for business owners, salon owners specifically, to understand how Google works?
I think when most salon owners understand their numbers, where your new clients coming from, they'll realize that the number coming from Google is far, far higher than they realized. Therefore, the importance of Google search becomes really, really relevant. It's likely to be in the order of 80% of the clients coming to the website are coming from search.
Okay, well, that's really interesting because I want to dig into some of the terminology, because I think a lot of people get confused on the terminology. And indeed, the terminology sort of changes. What it might mean today isn't necessarily what it meant before. And I was privileged enough to have you join me on my event that we did a couple of weeks ago at the House of Sassoon, and you did a great presentation on using Google to grow your business. And during that presentation, you shared some data, and you just touched on it then. And it was from a range of salons, because I know you work with salons all over the world, and you had some data from salons in Liverpool, in California, in Dublin, and in London. So it was very diverse.
Yeah.
And within that data, there were three statistics, well, two really, that add up to the third, that really stand out. And that was that one of them was 50% of people come. Now, this is specifically when we're talking about web traffic, okay? That 50% of them came from Google search and 30% came from your Google profile, meaning that 80% in total of web traffic clients that are coming to your business are coming via Google. So that in itself is a really important number to get your head around, and an important reason as to why salon owners need to understand how Google works. And then the other remaining 20% were things like you referred to it as direct, and I'll get you to explain what that means, and then websites and social. So just so we can give that some context, what do you mean when you say that 20% came from direct? What is direct? And some came from websites. What do you mean by that? And some came from social. So over to you.
Right, so direct are people coming directly to your website. So often it's from an email you've sent them. So it could be a client newsletter that you're sending out to all of your clients with links in it. Book online, buy it here, check our latest reviews. So you're giving them something to click. So Google, when you're tracking those numbers to your website, it'll say that's come directly to you. So it's clicking a link in an email or possibly in a SMS text message. You're sending messages to clients about bookings. So you might be reminding them about their appointment tomorrow. And if they click a link and come to your website, that's direct. They've not searched for you. They've not come by social media. You've given them a link somehow, or they've even saved it in their favorites on their browser. So they've got your salon in their favorites and they just click it and it goes straight there. That's a direct. So that's often your work, what you're doing as a salon owner to get emails and get text messages out there. Social media are people that go to your Instagram and your Facebook or see you on Instagram and Facebook and possibly like what they see and want to find out more. They want to find out your prices, where you are, possibly a map, your phone number. So that is tracked as incoming traffic to your website from social media or Facebook and Instagram separately.
Okay. And I'm curious about that. So those three make up only 20%. So 80% is coming from Google search and Google profile, and we'll dig into what that actually means in a minute. But the remaining 20% come from direct, it's coming from websites, and it's coming from socials. So out of those three, what's the breakdown typically of that 20%?
The direct, in other words, your text message and your emails is often 10 to 15. The other websites, which can be directory listings, you might be on a local, you could be on Yelp, you could be on a supplier guide. So people are finding you on other websites. So it can be a wide range of different websites. That's often 2, 3, 4%. Social media, and this is 230 salons over 20 years. I've never seen it higher than 3%.
Yeah, you see, that's the number that I think is just going to blow people away because, there's. I mean, we're all on Instagram. I shouldn't say we're all, but I think we're all on Instagram, and I think it's a fallacy that look, there are doubtlessly some people listening to this that will be saying, "I get all my new clients from Instagram," and I get that, but I don't think that is the norm. I think that it's the unicorns that are saying that, and it's
might
interesting.
Be all they do. If you only do Instagram, if you don't bother about your website and your Google, of course, that's how they're going to find you, because of Instagram. But if it's actually only 1% of the potential traffic to your website, you're missing the massive opportunity that's going to out there Google because you're relying on solely your Instagram traffic.
Yeah,
I looked at a West London salon, 2 salon locations in central London, who've got a really big Instagram following before I came on this call. they've got 12,000 Instagram followers. So a nice, very trendy, very social media friend. And I checked their numbers. They had 17,000 visitors on the website last month. 1% came from their Instagram.
Wow. Okay.
And that's 12,000 people on their Instagram, and only 1% of them, or 1% of the traffic to the website was coming from there. 80% was coming from Google.
Right. Okay. Now, you often, when I'm listening to you, you use lots of terminology, and I've learnt to understand the distinctions. But I know that when I look at hairdressers and you start talking to them about this, and the disadvantage we've got, although we're doing this as a podcast, and so it will be on YouTube, but predominantly our listeners are just going to be listening to this, typically while they do something else. So we can't share any visuals to explain what we're talking about. Yeah. But I think that what I see with hairdressers is they get confused with what some of the terminology means. So what I want to start with at the beginning here is just go through different terminology and what things mean. And I want to start off by asking you about this term. You've already used it, Google search. So what is meant by the term Google search?
So, I mean, Google's not the only search engine, so we should make that note. However, it's typically 90% of all search traffic is coming from Google. So there are others, there's Bing, there's DuckDuckGo, there's others, but really the number one answer is always Google. So let's talk about Google search. If somebody wants something, me, you, or your clients, most of us will get out our phone or go to our computer and we'll search for it. Whether it's a hotel in London, whether it's a car mechanic, whether it's a hair salon. We'll often go and search for it. Now, there's two ways you can search for it. You can search for, well, several. There's your phone or your tablet or your device, or there's your computer. So there's a slight difference in the way that Google gives you the answer, whether you're on a mobile phone or whether you're on a computer. But for most salons, 70% of your Google traffic is going to come from mobile phones or tablets. Mobile phones primarily. So it's important that you look at your salon through the eyes of a mobile phone user local to your business. So if you're in Tampa or if you're in Liverpool, get out your mobile phone, search for salon phrases, and see what Google gives you as the answer. So you're searching on Google and you're getting a result. What you search for could be salon, best salon, salon near me, balayage prices, extension specialist, whole range of phrases. I mean, we typically will check about 200 phrases for all of our salons constantly, every month. Where are we? Where are they appearing on Google? But we'll come to that later. It's when you search for something and it comes up on your screen, typically a mobile.
Right. Okay. So you just touched on some examples of what they would search for. What are the phrases that they're typing in to search, like typically? What sort of phrases are they putting in there? Like you just threw a few words out there like, I don't know, extension specialist or balayage or whatever it was. But as a client typing in, what is it that they're typing in?
We do a lot of research on this because it changes. 10 years ago, there was no such thing as balayage, or most people had not heard of it. Suddenly it became a really big trend, and it probably outranked most other colour phrases. So we do a lot of research on the current trends or what the current phrases are. But the generic ones are always the first thing: the hair salon, hairdressing salon, hair salon near me, best salon. Now, if you're on your computer, you would often add to the end of that the town name. So if you hair salon Mayfair, or you might say best salon Tampa, because you're on your computer and Google doesn't know where you are. So people get used to, when they're searching on their computer, saying, I'm looking for a hotel in London, I'm looking for a salon in Tampa. But if you're on your phone, you don't need to do that, because your phone is very much located, geolocated, they call it. So Google knows exactly where you are to the meter. So if you say salon near me, it's going to be looking at salons probably within a quarter-mile radius if you're in a city, perhaps a bit further if you're in a smaller town or somewhere more rural.
Right, okay.
So you've typed in best salon near me or balayage prices, and Google's come back with some answers. Now, it's going to give you two different kinds of answers, and I think it's really important to understand this, because right at the beginning you talked about the Google search being about 50% and the Google profile being about 20-30%. They're both actually Google search. If you type in salon near me on your phone, the first thing that comes up are your Google profiles as a result of what you asked it to search. So Salon near me, it'll give you a little map, and it'll give you typically 3 local salons. Beneath that, what we call Google Organic, in other words, websites. So in that same question, what's the best salon near me? You're going to get 2 different kinds of things. You're going to get the best Google profiles for salons, followed by the best websites for salons. So Google search is giving you 2 different kinds of answers, and we're going to go into both of those, I know, in detail.
I get it that from a consumer's point of view, how you measure the effectiveness of Google search, because it either tells you somewhere nearby or doesn't, sort of thing. So, that's how you're measuring the effective as a consumer. But as a business owner, how do you measure the effectiveness of your Google search?
You check a whole range of phrases. So let's take some examples. Let's assume we're in Tampa, in Florida, and we're a client, and we're looking for best hair extension salon. And we now know that Google's going to give us the profiles, followed by the websites. The effectiveness of that salon is, are you right at the top of the websites? We'll touch on the profiles later. Is your website coming up first in the list?
Okay.
Because if you've got, we'll go into the reasons why in a minute, but the effectiveness is being number 1 or 2 or 3. Beyond that, it's almost a waste of time. Being number 5, you're going to get very few clicks. You want to be the first 3 websites amongst those, ideally number 1 that comes up when people search. So we talked about Tampa, we talked about hair extension salon, but it could be best salon, salon reviews, salon balayage prices. There's a whole range of phrases, hundreds of them, that you want to be number 1 for. Because if when somebody's searching, or all these different people with different searches, with different questions, all in Tampa, if they're all asking different questions, but every single time the same salon keeps coming up, which in this case is our client, Monaco, they're number 1 for 217 phrases the last time I looked. So they dominate Google. If a person is searching for a salon service or a salon in Tampa and a wider area around it, they want to be number 1. They want that client to click through to their website, and then their website needs to be impressive. That's further down the conversation. But the first thing is you want to be right there, front and center, top of Google, on all the different phrases, from the very generic hair salon to the more detailed, best salon nearby for blonde balayage. That's a question. Yeah.
Okay, so it comes down to those phrases, and you just mentioned how many phrases, it was in the hundreds, that particular salon ranks at number 1 for. So how do you come up with the phrases? Is that your job, or is that my job as the salon owner to go, well, these are the things that people are typing in? How do you know what the phrases are that you want to dominate in Google, as you use that term?
It's our job. I mean, for all of our salons, it's our job, but with the input of the salon. So I might ring the owner at Monaco in Tampa, Jesus, and say, here's your 200 phrases. And he might go, we've just launched a new kind of beaded extension fixing method. Can we include that in the phrases that we're checking? So there's always input from the salon as to the services and the questions and the answers that they're giving clients. So it needs to be unique to each salon. It isn't a preset list of here's 100 phrases. It will vary depending what products you use, what services you provide, what city you're in.
Okay. Is there one phrase that they all have in common? Is it like, best salon in, and then location of town or city? I'm curious.
The biggest number often is the most generic hair salon, hairdresser. But it may not be the one of most value, because if somebody's I'm looking for a good salon. I'm a client looking for the phrase I'm more likely to use. I won't just type in hair salon. I'm probably going to put best salon or best salon reviews or before and after balayage pictures. Because when clients are ready, I think, to make an appointment or commit, they'll go further and just type in hair salon. So although the big number might go in hair salon, I actually think the real value, the clients, are in the slightly more complicated phrases like, beaded row extensions, stylist in Tampa. We go further. We want to really drill down and make sure you're number 1 on all of those phrases.
Right. Okay. So let's move on from Google search and we'll talk about Google profile because you've already mentioned it a couple of times, but I just want to make it clear to people that they're very different things. And as you've said, 30% of the traffic comes from your Google profile. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, and because this was a question that I was confused about, is your Google profile the same as Google My Business?
Yes.
Okay.
The confusion comes because Google keep changing the name of it. Just like Meta keep changing everything to do with Facebook and Instagram, Google likes to play as well. So it was Google My Business, it was the Google Map Pack, it was the Google Business Listings, and now it's the Google Profiles. Who knows what it'll be next year?
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
Exactly.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
I'm glad you covered that because that is a point of confusion for people. They get
Yeah,
just overwhelmed by what it is that they're looking for.
But it's at its basis, it's similar to like Facebook. If you're a salon, you may have a Facebook page and you may have an Instagram page or an account. Google profile is kind of similar. Google gives each business a profile. Every business should have a profile, and it's an entity like a Facebook page. It's a thing. You can add pictures to it. You can update it. You can make sure it's in the right position. So a profile is a bit like a Facebook page. It's a Google listing of your business with key information about where, what times, prices, accessibility, etc.
Right. And do you have to set that up or does it automatically get set up by Google?
It's normally automatically set up, but what often happens is it gets misplaced, it gets out of date, it's wrong. It could have the wrong name, it could have the wrong phone number, it could even be the wrong place on the map, because these things get forgotten about and therefore become wrong. So, and Google can see that if it's got a profile that seems to not be working well, it just doesn't appear. Because, I said to you that when you type something in, you'll initially get the map and 3 results. It's the best 3 results. It's the best profiles that Google will put there. We know that we're getting these Google profiles and then the websites. How do you force yourself to always be in the top 3 and ideally be number 1? Because there's a trick to that. That's what we're going to delve really into. Because you want to be number 1 on the map, number 1 on the websites. That's the perfect answer.
Got it. Okay. So when we talk about, I know there's a metric you talk about, and it's called profile views. So what does that mean? Like, obviously you want to get more profile views. So what does profile views means, and what determines that?
Right. So when we first start working on a Google business profile for a salon, the first metric we'll often see an improvement in is the profile views. Because if you're not in those top 3 results for almost any phrase at all, people aren't seeing your profile. They're searching on the phone for balayage, for salon, for whatever, and you're not coming up. So your profile views, the number of people that see your profile could be really low because it's actually just not visible. But as soon as it starts to improve and it starts to appear for more phrases in the top 3, your views is the first thing that's going to really skyrocket. More people are seeing your business on the Google Map results, on the Google profile results.
Okay. And it's a number that you track.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we send these to every client every month. These are the number of people that saw your profile last month compared to last year and the difference. So you can see the first positive result of working in your profile, more people will see it. The next measure is how many people click to call, because you can click to call from the profile. So if your calls are going up, this is because your views were going up. People are now clicking to call or asking for directions or visiting your website. So there are 3 key metrics on the actual profile. Once we've got the profile views up, so it's being seen more, they're called client interactions. Mm-hmm. We want real people doing something real. Phoning the salon, asking for directions or clicking through to the website. Those are that's the result. That's It's working. If we can double that every time, then you're getting a lot more business flowing through your Google profile.
Right. Now, can a salon owner go onto Google and see what their profile views are, or is that something that someone techie like you has to do for them?
No, nearly everything I'm going to talk about today, a salon owner can do, whether you should, because doing this really, really well is an investment of time and energy, primarily. So most salon owners have got a more important job to do, which is running their business. But the first understanding your profile is a good first step. search for your name on Google, search for your salon name, and you should see the result come up on the screen with a map and some contact information. If you own that profile, and sometimes this is where it all goes wrong, you'll have somebody that have done the profile for you and they've left. So you no longer can control it because the person who had the password to update the profile is no longer in the salon. It happens on social media a lot too. So that's often the first hurdle we'll hit when we talk to a new salon. We can't edit our profile, okay? We have to approach Google. We have to tell them that we've got a problem. Google will send you a postcard to your business because it's all about physical locations. It's all about bricks and mortar. So Google will send a postcard with a PIN number to your salon so you can then go to their profile and say, I've got the PIN number. I am the owner. I can take this over. So there's a way to get it back. There's a way to take ownership of a profile that you could have lost control of. And once you get it back, you then make sure it's 100% right. Opening times, accessibility, service list, description, images, etc. This is what we do as part of our service.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to join the two. I'm going to join the dots here. So, consumer in wherever they are. I'm in London, so in London, consumer in London puts into Google search, best balayage salon near me or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And that will then show them a selection of a whole lot of salons, and humans being humans will look at from the top down. And so they go number 1, number 2, number 3. And as you've said, you want to be in those top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You click on one of them. Let's assume you clicked on the top one. And that then takes you to the Google profile. Is that correct?
Yes.
It does, right, okay. And you don't pay anything for that Google profile, do you?
At the moment, there's a lot of conversation within the industry because 5 years ago, Google profiles didn't really exist. You searched on Google and you got a list of websites and you went there. Google doesn't like that because when you do that, you leave Google. When you click on a website, you've gone. So Google, you'll see it a lot now. Google are trying to keep you on Google because they're displaying adverts to you. They're getting you to do other things. So if they can give you, so they created this thing called the Google profile and they put it above the search results. Yeah. And then they said, everybody, you've got to update your profile. You've got to make it better. And next thing will be you charge a premium. It's definitely coming.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So that leads us into something else, which I know you offered to do for people as a free report. I hope I'm okay saying that now on this podcast. And that is this term Google rank. What is meant by the term Google rank?
And this applies to the profile and your website. The rank is where you are. Are you 1, 2, 3, or 33 for that phrase?
Just for a phrase. So it's a Google rank for a phrase, is it not? Right, okay.
Best salon Tampa, hair salon Tampa, balayage prices Tampa, hair extensions Tampa, halo hair extensions Tampa, they'll all have a different result on Google. You could be number 1, you could be number 1 for all of them. Or you could be number 1, 6, and 33. So it's tracking the rank against all the important key phrases. Right.
And again, is that something that the salon owner can do themselves? Can they look at a report or something on Google that will give them that rank?
There isn't a Google report, but we do a free report. So if you go to our website, we actually offer a free Google rank report for anybody that asks for it. Because for me, getting salon owners to understand and know their Google rank for all the phrases is a really important starting point. So we don't charge for this. We're happy to show salons, how does your salon rank? Where are you on the Google results in your area?
Okay.
Because it's really important. It's a foundation for all of what follows.
Yeah, okay. Just another question. In terms of when you're putting together that list of questions for how you want to rank on Google, what should you prioritize? Services or location?
Services. When you're doing your, and remember there's 2 things here. There's a profile and your website. We should probably, because it's a different solution for the 2. So let's talk about websites. Your website should just tell a great story. Whether it's about balayage or hair extensions or your salon. Because let's get into the meat of how you get to number 1 as opposed to number 33. What makes the difference? This is SEO. Why does Google put that salon right at the top of the Google results, whereas another salon next door could be number 33? And it's about the the quality of the website. And when I say quality, there are a number of factors to consider. Does it load quickly? Does it work well on a mobile phone? But they're almost kind of a given now that your website will be good on a mobile phone and will work and will load quickly. Not always the case, but let's assume that is. Then Google's going to judge which is the best website nearby for a question about balayage. It's going to look at the balayage page if you've got one. Most salons won't. They'll have a price list that might mention balayage. Some salons, like ours, will have a complete page explaining what balayage is, before and after pictures, pricing information, frequently asked questions, videos, so a really information-packed page, and Google will see that as that seems to be the website nearby that has the best answers to those questions.
Right. Now, let me ask you about that, because the SEO was always about putting in lots of keywords. Yeah. This has evolved, hasn't it, from that? Yeah. It's not just about, I don't know what the right term is, populating a whole lot of keywords for the sake of it. It's about having a content-rich sort of website that goes into lots of different areas. Yeah. And that, to me, is one of the things that I sort of see with salon owners when you talk about that. I sort of see them, screwing up their face a little bit, that they don't want so much content. They want something that's more minimalist or whatever. And from what you're saying, they're shooting themselves in the foot when they say that you need to have a lot of content there so that Google can say this is the best one to prioritize. Am I correct with saying that?
Absolutely. It's a conversation. I was going to say a battle, but it's not a battle. It's a conversation we have with our clients all the time. Content is king. Content is really, really important. And if you skim back to make it really clean and aesthetically pleasing, then you're not going to be persuading Google that you've got the answers on balayage or even best salon. It's about the depth of content. And if you don't do that right, then you're going to lose out on all the traffic.
Yeah.
Now, okay. And we've done it for so long and for so many people. We know this is the result. If we cut back a page, the results drop really quickly. So then we'll often go back to the salon and say, that page that you asked us to reduce in length, that's now dropped and you're getting a lot less traffic. Which would you prefer? The clients, the traffic, the visitors, or the pretty page with very little information? And most salon owners want the clients.
Yeah, of course they do. Okay. Yeah. Now, I think I said earlier on that you've developed over 300 websites all around the English-speaking world, so to speak, and you work very closely with a lot of salon owners with their digital marketing. Let me ask you this question. What is it that determines, from your perspective, whether someone will be successful or not? Because that really plays into what we've just spoken about.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, so I've really got to understand, I think, the thinking process. When I meet a new client, a new salon owner comes to us and agrees, I can often see in the early conversations whether they're going to commit, whether they're going to go for this with some passion, because that often will define the level of success that we get. Because although we can do an awful lot, we can't do it without the input and involvement of the team, the salon team, the owner, possibly one or two other key people. Because if we can never get images, if we can never get information, if the whole process is too slow, and in some ways they're not asking constant questions, what can we do next? It's not going to work as well. In fact, my first ever client was in Liverpool, and they're still a client now, 18 years on. That client will do everything. In fact, constantly pesters me. What else, Phil? What else should we be doing? What else can I do? What about TikTok? Which is good, because what about AI? They're challenging us. What's next? But they've won Best Salon Website multiple times, Best Salon Marketing Awards, Best Online Salon. They get something like 17,000 visitors a month. And this is a single location salon. So that ambition, that hunger that they have will often define, I think, how well this will flow during the first year and beyond. You've got to commit. You're going to have a website, make it a good one, make it work, know the numbers, really kind of understand how this thing works, because it will be central to your business.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm sort of joining those dots again. So from Google search to Google profile, and then they click on that Google profile and then their actual website. Yeah. And I know that's really where you started, wasn't it? Was building salon websites. So you've learned an awful lot about what works in a salon website or not, because no matter how good your Google search results are, and no matter how good your Google profile is, I've heard you use this expression, which I really like, which is your website should be your hardest working employee.
Yep.
And so the point of what I'm arriving at here is that you've got those first two ducks in a row, Google search, Google profile, then they click through to your website, and no matter how much traffic is being generated, your website has got to then convert them. So what are the sort of mistakes that you see in websites that mean the conversion rate is really low? Because that must frustrate the hell out of you if you've done the first bits and then you're getting them to the website, but they're not converting.
Websites often, and still do to a degree, used to have a lot of stock images from suppliers. And I really don't like that anymore. I think if you can have a website, tell your story and use your client imagery. Although likes of Goldwell and Weller produce wonderful imagery, you shouldn't make your website all about those stock images of models. Make it about the work that you do and your team do and your clients and the atmosphere and the work, because I think that tells a story, and that's the best way to convert. If somebody arrives and just sees Weller images that they've seen on other Weller sites, where's the persuasion? Where's the selling? Whereas if it's full of your pictures, that one in Liverpool that I mentioned, if you go and look at their balayage page, it'll be full of balayage images of their work and different kinds of balayage, blonde and brown and root stretch and all the variations. That's what a client's looking for. They want to know, are you good at this? Do you know what you're talking about when it comes to balayage? Can I see some examples? What's the pricing? How do I book? Yeah. So you make that really easy. You're converting the client that you're selling to them, but you're doing it, quietly on your website by telling a great story about that thing they were looking for.
Yeah. Okay. Now I know that Google also ranks salons or websites rank salons higher if there's a lot of change, if they're active, that there's new stuff being added all the time. Yeah. And so to me, that makes me think about a blog. Because a blog's an easy way to be adding new content, whether it's on a weekly or monthly basis or whatever, so that Google, the algorithm, knows that this website is active. So that's what I want to ask you about, the blog component. How important is having the blog component to get that change in there so that Google ranks it higher?
I think it's got all sorts of positives. I think the Google seeing new content being added is one big positive. Google can see that this website's being updated, therefore it's going to give you a better Google rank. But also the thing that you're writing about can be a really big positive. You could be writing about a new colour trend. You could be talking about calligraphy cuts. You could be talking about a trend that you may not want it on your main page of your website, but you're talking about something that's rising as a trend, a colour trend or a cutting trend or a service or a new product. So it's a good way of supplementing the information on your website with more information that's actually valuable and will have its own search values. If somebody searches for calligraphy cut within 5 miles of your salon and nobody else talks about it, you'll be number one really easily, but possibly over a big area. So choose things to write about that have value for clients coming to you.
Right.
But also it gets you in the practice of producing content. If you're quarterly thinking about what are we going to write about during the summer, what's our blog going to be, we can talk about some products, some new services, because it then almost gives you a structure for your social media posting, for your newsletters to go out by email, because you're constantly thinking about what's coming next. Not just the next promotion, but the next content, next story we're going to tell on the website.
Yeah, okay. That's a perfect sort of segue into talking about social media, specifically online ads. So whether we're talking about Facebook ads, Instagram, so Meta, or Google. And Meta ads have a notorious reputation for being a financial black hole for a lot of people. But now we also have another phrase I want to throw in there, which is Google AdWords. So what's the difference between Google AdWords and Meta adverts, and which of the two is better?
There's no better, because they've got different purposes and different markets and different solutions. They're both bad news if badly controlled, and that's the key to it. I mean, I was talking to a salon yesterday and they were spending £1,200 a month on Google AdWords. They've got 2 staff. And I was like, wow, why are you spending so much money? Well, we were persuaded to do so, and the guy said we can't stop now, we're doing it. I said, and you're even spending money on an advert for your business name. If somebody types in your business name, you will be number one. So why are you then spending for an advert to be a bit above yourself? So I think it's really important, if you're going to step into online advertising, whether it's Meta or it's AdWords, have an understanding of it. Talk first to somebody who understands it, because it's the second, third and fourth thing you need to do, not the first. The first is sort your website, because that's free traffic. If you're number one on Google profile, if you're number one Google website, that doesn't cost you anything other than the investment. Advertising is going to cost you time every somebody clicks it. So spend money later. So the way I differentiate between the two, AdWords and Meta. Meta is great for really visual advertising and really good for something that applies to most people. So a colour offer. A colour offer will apply to most women. And when you do an advert on Meta, you can target just women. You can target just women within a distance of your salon. So you can say, right, I want to target 3 miles radius of my salon. I want to target all women. You'd probably split it and say, I'm going to target women up to the age of 30 and then 30 plus, because then you can use different images. So you can have a younger set of images on the adverts for the younger ones and a slightly more mature set of images and different images for the older set. So, and Meta's great for this, for targeting people in your area that are likely to want to find out more. And because it's visual and it's colour that you're selling, it's the perfect match for me. Using Meta to drive traffic to your website when you've got a great promotion and great images, it works. We've done it for 15 years, and it's one of the great success stories when it's done well. Right. But Google AdWords has its role too, because sometimes perhaps you're in London or you're in Tampa and you do hair extensions, and your website, that's going to take a long while to really rank well, and it's a high value service. So possibly it is worth the investment on targeting people who are searching for hair extensions, because that's a key difference. Meta, you're just putting it out there for anybody to see within your demographic, women within 3 mile radius. They're all going to see that advert. Whereas Google AdWords, it's only going to pop up if somebody searches for the phrase you've targeted. So if I say, right, I want to run an advert in this part of London for anybody searching for hair extensions, my advert pops up, but not for hair colour, because that's not the key phrase we're targeting. So AdWords is really good. Google AdWords is really good for higher value services, for specific targeting people who are about to buy. So it costs more. So it's more of a financial drain if you do it wrong. But doing it right can be a really good way to get new clients. But I think it's horses for courses. Choose the right one for the promotion you've got, for the service you're offering, for the target area you're covering. So Gloucester is different to London. So Boston would be different to a very small town in South Carolina. It's a different answer depending where you are and the service you're promoting.
So does that mean, if I've understood that correctly, that you would be better to focus on Google search and investing in that than you would be on Google AdWords?
Totally. Now, you shouldn't spend money on advertising online unless you've already done your best with your website and your organic free results, because your website and your profile are two things.
Yeah. Okay.
The only thing that costs you is the investment, time and money and energy in getting it right. You're not paying per click afterwards. That traffic is flowing. Those 17,000 people in West London that went to that salon I mentioned, they didn't cost him a penny, because he's just got a great website that gave him 17,000 visitors last month, most of which came from Google. So that's an investment that just keeps paying back and paying back. Whereas an advert, you pay every day, every click.
All right. So two things before we start to wrap up. First one is Google reviews, which are also something that I don't know how long they've been in existence, but they've certainly, become a very sort of dominant feature these days. So how important are Google reviews when it comes to generating more traffic? And what's the best way to get more of them?
Best way to get more awesome is ask your clients for a review. Yeah, in different ways. You could have a QR code at reception. You could make sure that your team are asking. So when the stylist is coming towards the end of finishing the work, they're asking for that review personally. So ask for the review. Send an email out. Send a reminder after the visit. We'd love some feedback. Give us a review. So ask for the review. Most salons don't do that often enough. to get a constant, because it wants to be a constant flow. Google doesn't like to see 1,000 review all arrive at once, because it thinks that's bad SEO. That's people trying to cheat the system. So what you want to do is a constant flow. Everything you do has a request for a Google review in it. And they are enormously important, because a Google review goes on your profile. So your Google business listing, your profile that we talked about, is the first thing that comes up. That is highly influenced by reviews. It's not the only thing. There's a lot of other things go into your Google profile to give you the number one spot, but reviews is a very important part of that. But your Google reviews can also be on your website. You can embed them on your website. And Google sees that interaction. It knows what profile works with what website. So making one stronger actually makes the other stronger too.
Right,
So
okay.
Google reviews are very positive for every salon.
Are they all kept on your profile?
Yes.
Like you can click on a link to see more, and they'll
Yes.
just keep loading and keep loading.
Yeah. So if we manage a salon's Google profile, some salons ask us to respond to all the reviews. Other salons, they'll do it, but we chase them if we can see, because especially if it's a bad review. Don't ignore a bad review, because it will cause you untold damage. Respond in a nice, polite and civil way, in a prompt way, but be on top of your reviews. Get more coming in and manage them. Say thank you, because that all helps make it work better. It makes the reviews more live as far as Google.
Yeah, and so the Google algorithm understands that if you've got a lot of reviews that are positive, then it's more likely to push you up in terms of the Google search results.
Yeah. And
Is
it's
that
clever
correct?
enough.
Yeah.
It's clever enough now, Google, to be reading those reviews. It's a robot, but it reads them. Right. I've got a nice flow of constant 5-star reviews, and a lot of them are talking about hair extensions. A lot of them are talking about balayage, because it looks at the wording, the actual text of the reviews. So all of those things are building on the keywords, but in a natural way. If you had a great salon, great at extensions, and you asked every client for reviews, you'd get a lot of good reviews that talked about hair extensions. So Google's looking for almost natural growth in your profile and your website, good things happening, and it'll put you at the top, which encourages even more good things to happen. So once you dominate Google, you can get a lot more reviews because you're getting a lot more clients.
Yeah, okay. In line with Google reviews, and this is a little bit more American centric, is that Yelp was huge in the United States. It was never that big outside the United States, is my observation of it. How does Yelp play into this? Because Google reviews seems to have dominated the review side of things at the moment, but Yelp's obviously still alive and kicking. What sort of influence does that have on all of this, or doesn't it have any?
A much smaller influence. I think if you like the Google search, Google is 90% of search. I think in terms of reviews, Facebook's reviews are quite important too, because it's still a very well used platform. But I think Google reviews is where the real weight is. If you're going to put things in order, don't worry about the thing that's number 6 in the list. Tackle number 1 first, because often number 1 and 2 are 80% of the problem. So I'd sort out your Google reviews, possibly your Facebook reviews. The others you can worry about later.
Right, okay. So last thing I want to talk about is analytics, which, hairdressers are sort of notorious for not really looking at their analytics that much. As long as the website looks pretty, then it's doing its job, which we both know is wrong. So what are the website analytics that a salon owner should know and should track?
Right. I'm going to do profile and website, because there's two. So your Google profile analytics, you want to know how many times your profile's been seen and is it increasing, and how many of those client interactions, phone call, directions, clicks to the website. Those are your numbers. Is my profile being seen, and am I getting more interactions? We send a report to all of our Google profile clients that we manage their profiles. Every month we send them a report right at the beginning. This is last month. And right at the top, we put some great big green numbers. This is your success last month, how much it was up, how many extra interactions you got. Because I think that's it. You don't want to worry about hundreds of numbers. You want, what's the most important thing? How many client interactions did I get? Was it up? Because then you know you're getting more clients thrown through the door. So that's your Google profile. Your website, it's your rank. So for all those phrases, know what your rank is, because you're aiming to improve that over 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 10 years. You want to end up dominating Google for most of these phrases, so you need to track the progress. But that rank produces traffic. know your traffic number. That's the most important analytics when you're running a website. How busy is your website? How many people were on your website last month? You know, the fact I could tell you that West London Salon had 17,000 visits, great. But I can also tell you where they came from. The division between Google Search, Google Profile, that again is the next step. So once you kind of get to grips with the first number, how busy is your website, then ask the second question, where are they coming from? And then ask the third question, how does that compare to last year? Once you get into this pattern of knowing your numbers and enjoying them, you'll be doing a lot more of this in 2 years' time.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, listen, we need to start wrapping up. Whereabouts can people connect with you on Instagram or other social media channels or your website? And you also mentioned that you had an offer to give people a free Google rank report. If they want that or want to connect with you on social, just tell us whereabouts you want to send them.
Right, the best place to go and learn about us is our website, because that tells the whole story, salonguru.net. salonguru.net. So go there. All of our clients are there. There's a map of every single salon, interactive, so you can look at where's near you. There's in the top right corner, there's a button that says free rank report. It'll ask you where you are, your email, your salon name, etc., and we will produce a free Google rank report and send it to you for your salon in your town. There's no commitment. We just do it. You know, I'll email you after and say, would you like a phone call? Would you like me to explain more? If you don't do that, if you don't follow up, fine. But do that. And then, if nothing else, come back in a year and do the same again to see if you've made those improvements. I'm hoping you might be working with us. But if you're going to tackle this yourself, make that rank report part of your, how do I measure if this is going to work? The rank report.
Okay, well, I'll put those links on our website, growmysalonbusiness.com, and in the show notes for today's podcast. So if you're listening to this podcast with Phil and have enjoyed it, do me a favor and share it with people that you know who would also enjoy it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on the Apple Podcast app. So, Phil Evans, thank you for being a guest on today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
I'll look forward to it. Okay, well, I hope you got a lot out of this week's episode, and don't forget we're soon to be launching our online marketing course where we're going to cover everything that we've gone over today in a lot more detail. So if marketing and growing your business is important to you, then head on over to growmysalonbusiness.com/course/marketing and put your name on the wait list so that you get priority notification, and I'll also put that link in the show notes of today's episode. So until next week, that's me. Bye for now.